Welcome to The Bottom, a podcast created by Dojira Studios. In this show, we unpack some of crypto's most difficult topics. We get to the bottom of the process behind cultivating crypto communities, what it takes to build a thriving project, and understanding the technology behind your favorite tokens, NFT collections, and blockchain games. My name is Elijah McDougall, and I am your host. On this seminal episode of The Bottom, I invited Jesse J, also known as the HogeFather, onto the show to dig into the buzz around Hoge V2. But this episode is about so much more than just Hoge and its community. In the course of our conversation, we consider the future of meme tokens and what it will take for any of the projects that were established in 2021 to become mainstays in this new year. Now, please join me in giving Jesse J a warm welcome to the show. Hey, Jesse, how's it going?
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on the show, Elijah. I'm a big Dojira fan at this point.
Thank you. It's always great to have the wonderful HogeFather in the house. If you are a new person to Dojira, we recently did a talk with HogeFather on his podcast, where we got into basically who we are as a project, our products, kind of what the future looks like, and it was a really great conversation. So if you need like a high-level primer, that's a good place to go. But we are actually starting something new here, which you'll see at the beginning of this video. But HogeFather and I today are going to dive into the world of V2 tokens, kind of the challenges and the benefits of refreshing your project, and then also talking about the benefits of side chains and what they can do for accessibility and new features for the projects. When we were talking a little bit behind the scenes, Jesse, we were noting that Hoge is kind of going through a bit of a not a community discussion that's pretty intense around the idea of starting a V2 token, basically taking the problems with the V1 contract, getting rid of them, and continuing on this new road. So why don't you break that down a little bit for me? What are you seeing? What's the conversation? What are the reasons for a V2 relaunch?
Yeah, so I wrote a couple articles, a series of articles, and I wrote basically that the problem with our V1 token right now, there's a number of problems. One of them is gas. The gas cost increases as we blacklist wallets. And we do this for exchange wallets because they don't want to receive the reflections. That's part of being listed. And so the challenge with that is that it's a linear scaling. So it's causing it to increase, not just temporarily or slightly. It's like it's a lot every time. So we're basically like double what a non-reflection token would be in order to do a trade on Uniswap. And a lot of our volume still comes from Uniswap. So that's how people are still buying us, buying and selling. So that's a very big deal for our token. And so that aside, though, the next time that there's a bull run, I want to be positioned to where people who have $100 and want to put it into crypto will be able to do that with Hoge. And right now, that's not realistic. In fact, this is not even really a bull run at the moment. And gas is still beyond, what you could even realistically get anything out of it. So it's a problem for going mainstream, and that's what we want to do. I think that's all of our goal, right? That's what we're all trying to do.
Yeah, I think we ran into a similar issue with Dojira when we were planning out the V2. Now, I wasn't part of the team at that point. I came on towards the very end of all of that planning and kind of developing all of those resources for our V2 relaunch. But I remember that there was a lot of conversation about, man, these gas fees are extremely oppressive. They make buying very difficult. The one benefit that we had was that people would do bigger buys and would not sell as heavily because it would cost you $200 to even do a transaction. So in the sense of especially a meme coin kind of environment, there is a lot of issues with not being able to get those small buys. Lots of issues with people sucking up a lot of liquidity on just one transaction. And so I think one of the trends we've seen in at least the ETH space is a lot more whales, a lot more people sitting on huge piles of tokens. And there's a lot of anxiety about okay, what are these people going to do? Because I remember really early on in my trading career, there would be tokens I'd buy into, and then I wouldn't actually have good like enough money to get out when I saw that the trend was starting to
Hmm.
dump. And so there's a lot of people who are just stuck bag holding. And so is that kind of the experience that you've seen with Hoge lately? Is that because the conditions of ETH are so oppressive that it
Yeah.
really hurts long-term holders?
Yeah, absolutely. That I think is the issue. And so the way that we want to address that is pretty much what Dojira has already achieved, right? So going to Polygon, and I don't know that necessarily Polygon would be our option. I like Polygon, but that's something that the community is going to have to decide. But I think going to another chain, there's been talk of BSC. I think that's a good option, a viable option as well. Although the gas costs there are surprisingly high for a proof of stake chain because it is so busy. So it's something that you have to kind of keep in mind as well. Whereas with Polygon, it's usually less than a cent or around 1 penny to do a transaction, depending on the day and what you want to do. So I think Polygon's a great option. I think there's maybe CRO, the Chronos is a
Yeah.
good chain. They've been advertising a lot, and what we could do because these are all um, running on the Ethereum virtual machine, we could actually airdrop those, I believe,
Mhm.
and kind of avoid having to have people migrate over because I think that would be really the death of the project if we tried to force people to pay all that gas to do that. Like that's really unfair, right?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely against that option. What I envision is something where people who bought into it back in March or May or whatever the case was, and they were like, you know what, I trust these people. I'm just going to leave my tokens here, and 10 years later, I'll see what happened,
Hmm.
right? And I want those people to make sure they don't get left behind. That's the priority for me. I think if we do anything other than that, then we haven't really served our community well. So that's where my mind is at
Yeah.
with that. Now I know there's challenges no matter which way you go with it. It's always you know you're starting a new contract. You have to make sure people are going to trust that. You have to get it audited. There's always there's hurdles, right? But
Yeah, there's a lot of costs associated in it, and it really depends on who you want to put the cost on. I think a lot
mhm,
of opportunistic projects like to put the cost on the community.
right,
Say, hey, trade in your tokens, pay all the gas, do the thing, and then we'll send you some new ones.
right,
And like that has a lot of room for error. And a lot of projects choose to do that because it's easier than copying to the hey, actually it's our responsibility to do this. We have the money to do it, maybe, so maybe we should do it. And so with Dojira, the team took on the cost and created the liquidity, moved the
hmm
liquidity over
hmm
from ETH to Polygon, airdropped all the tokens. I mean, it was extremely
man,
seamless, by the way, to go from ETH to Polygon.
yeah,
We were used to how long it would take for ETH transactions, and so I remember Owen saying that he had budgeted all this time to airdrop all the tokens, and it was like done like
yeah.
in like a fraction of the time. And he's like, oh, well, we're live, I guess. Great, and so moving to a side chain does have a lot of benefits, and I think we've seen it in our community. People are able to buy smaller amounts,
hmm
which means you get more types of buyers in, which is really good for just general community composition because you don't want to end up in a place where you have a lot of really jaded whales and then like a
Right,
bunch of moon boys. Like you want a
right.
good mix of whales who care about the project, moon boys who are willing to learn about the project, and then everybody kind of in between who are the more like medium long hold retail investor types who really want to see what the project can do. So kind of going from that, what is the community's struggle with the V2 token? I had seen that you were
Yeah,
kind of pointing out that there's almost like an identity crisis. Like a lot of
I
people
think
are
that's
almost scared to
probably
let
what.
go.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's exactly what it is because we were the first token of our kind. I guess that's how we view ourselves. Um, and so the problem with going to a V2, I think, is that identity crisis that you're talking about. Because then we're not. What are we the first of right at that point? Right, we're following the lead of projects like Dojira and others who have done that. And so I think that's not how Hoge wants to see itself. But I think that's consistent with the reality of what it is, which is that we do have a lot of jaded holders that would have sold off if the Ethereum gas fees were lower, and they're trapped in the project, right? So you have some of those people in there. You've got some of the folks like me who love the project, but I can't onboard my friends and family and say, yeah, throw $100 in there. This will work great. I mean, I guess I could get them on like some of the shady, no, that's the wrong word. Some of the lesser known, non-United States approved, which it would be shady for them to break the law and use the exchange, right? But, so these exchanges that we're on, there's nothing wrong with those exchanges, but you're having to, go outside of your jurisdiction in order to use those, right? And so that's not something I want to recommend to my friends and family either, right? So the only really viable option is a V2 for the projects that want to go mainstream. That's how I see it. On a side chain, it's got to be on a layer 2 or an alternate layer 1. It can't be on Ethereum mainnet. And Vitalik has even admitted this. Like, there's no future for the common user to be using Ethereum layer 1 for DeFi. You're not going to be doing it. Like, that's not going to happen. You will be using a layer 2 if you want to be at all profitable. Yeah. And the people who recognize that earlier and switch over are the ones that get, the early bird gets the worm, man. That's just how it goes. And Dojira has been there, and you guys have, you've got this nice, sleek Dojira finance site where I am now yield farming for some Chainlink, which is pretty awesome. So
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was handing the baton back over to you in my mind. I was.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably a little different for you to be in the passenger seat with being your own podcaster. So we would not have the functionality we have now without Polygon, 100%. If we had been kind of like, ETH is a legacy platform, we need to be on ETH in order to win, we wouldn't have what we have now. I think the project would look a lot different. I think in general, I appreciate people who are looking to build dApps on ETH. I get it. A lot of the volume is there. But I'm seeing more and more, especially with GameFi projects like us, that are staying on ETH. They're like completely building the game off chain and only having like one or two select elements on chain, which is totally fine. Like that's totally fine. But there is a bit of this like, we have to do this or else the game is not viable. And so that's when I start to ask, well, why not move to a side chain? Like if you guys are as committed to decentralization as you want to be, then there's more ways to do that with a Polygon, with a Crow. Well, Crow's maybe not super decentralized, but a side chain where the costs are less and there's chance for more functionality. Now, I think we did see some kind of like the limits of like what you can make decentralized on Polygon recently with Sunflower Farms.
Right.
They went and made a game fully on chain, which it would have been fine if the mechanics were different, right? The mechanics that they were using were very like click to win. So you just do one thing and then it save states the game so that you can get your cryptocurrency. And it was overloading the chain because so many bots and people were just clicking and earning. And then you had like the exploit, the overflow error that ended up killing the project. And so, side chains aren't a silver bullet if you're not a good programmer. Like nothing on the blockchain is a silver bullet if you're bad at Solidity. I'm not saying that the Sunflower Farms people are bad. It was a new project for him. Part of the issue too is that if you're new to the space, you can't pay for that audit, right? And that's a bit of the conversation with the V2 is like you need to be able to pay for an audit to catch the mistakes that were made the first time. That's a lot of the reasons that people do and projects do a V2 contract. Is because there's mistakes, there's little bits of code that don't work, they're outdated, they cause problems, whether it be gas or weird reflection issues, or in our case, we had this error that would constantly show, the Uniswap router selling tokens. And so everybody be all these new people be like, "Oh, 488D, what are they doing? They're dumping the token." And it's like, "No, no, no, it's a display bug." So like there are things like that for every project that's in a V1 state that needs to have those changes. But it does kind of sort of change the identity of the token. I mean, Dojira was a hard pivot to we're meme token to we're GameFi, you know? And so I guess maybe that's the next part of the conversation here is what does it look like if Hoge were to do a V2 or even just any meme coin that is a former kind of dog coin situation? Like, what does it look like if they V2, right? Because the popular thing is GameFi, but like what would Hoge want to do?
Yeah, so we've already had a developer create a game called Hoge Man. It's basically like a Mega Man with Hoge themes and crypto themes in the game, and so it feels like a lot like a Mega Man game, and it's all like NFTs. There was this huge NFT launch. They raised like $500,000 in ETH from the and USDC from the NFT sales. So and they've got like a tournament going. So this is called Virtual Pangea. It's a group from the Hoge team that is they pretty much took on that project and put out a successful product. People love the game. And so, we've already got some GameFi success. It's just not connected to the original token in any way, shape, or form, right? So,
Right.
and we can't connect it to the original token because the Ethereum gas costs are just too high to get anything done. And so it's got to be on
Right.
Polygon. Like if you're going to be doing GameFi, you've got to do it on
Yeah.
Polygon or like Axie Infinity. They were on Ethereum originally. They couldn't get any traction at all, understandably. And as soon as they went to the Ronin sidechain, this thing blew up in 2021 and
Yeah.
became, the poster child, not just for GameFi, but for crypto, where it's like, obviously gaming is where crypto is going to go. DAOs are where crypto is going to go, and Hoge doesn't have its DAO yet, which is maybe a blessing in disguise, because if we tied our DAO structure to the original Hoge token, that might make the switch more cumbersome. But with a V2, I think we have the chance to design it in such a way that, like, if you have to stake tokens in order to vote in a DAO measure or something like that, that it's not going to cost you a 2% in order to do something like that. It's not going to cost you 2% when you want to add liquidity as a community member, if that's something you want to do. We don't want it to cost you 2% in our taxes, right? So we can take those desirable activities and exclude them from any sort of taxation. And I see a lot of benefits there. I see a lot of benefits of moving to the sidechain, and I really hope that the community. I know not everybody is a believer in this idea yet, but I hope Dojira's success puts at ease the fear of people who are like, oh my God, I'm going to lose all my tokens, and you guys are going to mess this up. No, there are V2 mess ups, and I've seen
Yeah.
projects that they really botch it. Like the project dies because they do the V2 wrong, but
Yeah.
it's also the case that if you don't adapt to the circumstances as they're changing,
Hmm.
you'll never be the Axie Infinity, right?
No.
You'll never reach those levels of success that we envision for Hoge, taking DeFi mainstream and
Yeah.
taking GameFi mainstream. Like we want it to be something that you can get grandma into. It's that easy, right? Like that's
Yeah.
what we want it to be. Not that, I mean, grandmas play video games. I've seen
Yeah, there's a
grandmas play
few.
Skyrim, right?
There's definitely a few. I think that's really that's a compelling point. It's investing in teams, right? Do you trust your team enough to actually handle doing this? I suspect that some of the people who are just over the entire crypto space who are anti, V2 contract changes, anything of that nature, they just don't actually trust the team. And some of those people are also newer to the project. Like they come in right when the conversation is starting, and so it already kind of sets them on this like almost negative mindset of like, oh, there's something wrong with this project. I'm sure there's some, old school Hoge holders who are like, hey, this isn't a good idea. But again, it's a question: do you trust your team? I think the reason we had a successful V2 and a complete move to a different chain was that we were able to inspire trust in the community. Now, again, I wasn't on the team at that point. That was all, Owen and Skylar and Dan and Mary at that point, helping inspire people to trust the team with it. But that said, I mean, if you can't trust the team to make the changes that are necessary to keep the project alive, then like, why are you invested in the project? No, I think the other thing is that people kind of forget sometimes like what the spirit of crypto is. Crypto is inherently risky. It's when you're decentralized, there's less safety nets, right? And so like a lot of people entered crypto because they were like primed for the risk taking of I might be able to make some money, I might not. I know I got into crypto because of GME and AMC and Wall Street bets. I got primed for like the risk taking. I was like, you know what? Like, let's just give it a try. What's the worst that's going to happen? Well, I ended up working in crypto full time. So like, it was a good risk to take. Awesome. Yeah.
Results may.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Results may vary. Work on your skills, and then you can definitely try to get tied into a project. But yeah, it really is about being willing to take risk. And I think if you're not willing to take risk, it's a sign that you're almost too comfortable with the state of things, right? There's a lot of people who like really like wish that they can make a lot of money, but they're comfortable with whatever the amount they're sitting on. It gives them a sense of security. And so then they're like, well, what if we do really bad? And it's like, well, you're if you're never going to pull out your money anyway, like you might as well be willing to, let the team take some risks and try to move the ball forward. Yeah. What do you think about that?
I think you're exactly spot on. I think there's been erosion of trust in Hoge because we had raised $500,000 to get listed on a top 5 exchange. And there's been delays with that are kind of out of our control, but people don't really care because they put into this thing and, rightly so, they have expectations, right? And so when I'm trying to raise the conversation point that, well, part of the reason why we're having trouble getting listed on these exchanges, one of them, none of these exchanges like the tokenomics, right? Because if you can't exclude them from having to pay the tax, then trying to market make and balance, do arbitrage, all that is a mess, right?
Yep.
So like that's part of their model is balancing prices with other exchanges and arbitraging. And if there's a 2% tax, like it's not good.
Yeah.
And I've been sort of corrected, I guess you could say, by the business development team that we haven't been told no by the top 5 exchange. They've never said we're not going to list you. So I will cede that point, and I'm not trying to fight with our business devs. I appreciate everything they're doing, but yeah. But nevertheless, we're not on the top 5 exchange, and so everyone who has put their faith in the Hoge team and in the Hoge creative community, like me and Crypto Camel and other people that have been really excited about Hoge, like I understand why they're upset, and it's like why are these delays happening? So my viewpoint is that if we address the issues with our contract and we're able to increase our volume by getting retail investors that just want to put $100 in, if we can pull those people in, then the exchanges are going to see the kind of volume that we're able to generate, and they're going to want to list us. It's not going to be like pulling teeth. They're going to be eager to do it, right? Because they're going to see the volume is there, and I think the volume will be there. But again, these are all, everything we're doing is a hypothesis, and so it's like you were saying, this is a very risky space. We think something will work, and we're trying to do it, and like even listing our expensive gas contract. They were willing to do it when our volume was really high. They approached us when the volume was really high, and things have tapered down since then. And so, now they're looking at our volume and they're like, we don't know about this. And so, I mean, I imagine, you're
right. Yeah.
But I'm imagining, like, if they were desperate to have us listed, we would be listed, right? That's what I'm saying. So that's why I think a V2 is a really compelling solution. I'm really interested in Dojira's future. And so I know we don't have all night to talk. I definitely want to hear about where Dojira is headed and what kind of, like, I know Hanzo, like I just have like a vague idea of what's going on with Hanzo. But that seems pretty cool. I like their artwork.
Yeah.
So anything that catches my eye with like artwork or game ideas, like I just kind of want to hear more.
Yeah, for sure. I did remember what I was going to say originally. To a point for maybe some help for the people who are concerned about getting onto exchanges. One of the things that everyone has to remember about exchanges is they run on corporate time. We all run 24/7. We can things can happen quickly in crypto because there's not like just the typical like weekend off and 9 to 5. A lot of Solidity devs are like night owls and they work overnight, and you wake up and something has happened and it's amazing and it's incredible. Crypto runs 24/7, but the exchanges, because they're centralized, have employees. They run on a more typical schedule that a lot of us have potentially been used to, working at offices or universities like yourself, all that stuff. So like, you do have to keep that in mind. Things don't run quickly because it can't. There's not enough hours in the day because they're, not there every hour of the day. But yeah, so back to kind of Hanzo and Dojira. We recently, as last week, finally got to deploy our NFT toolkit that Eoghan spent a good chunk of time creating. It is basically an application that you can. An application might even be the wrong word. It's an algorithm that you can feed all of the image assets and rarity stuff, like rarity numbers and all of the different parameters around how to generate this NFT collection. And then it's also hooked into the Chainlink VRF. And so it's basically able to do on-chain randomization that's verified randomized, which kind of cuts out some of that trend that we've seen with some NFT projects where they kind of pick and choose what gets put together, and then they conveniently give it to people who are like old supporters, but it like looks random. So this is like one of the big things for us right now is that we've created this tool, and Hanzo got to kind of take a first whirl at it. And so they launched their NFT collection to kind of help continue the work on their MMO that they're building on the Polygon blockchain, and to help kind of fuel a resurgence as we get ready to kind of debut, we being them, as they get ready to debut their title in the future here. And so we've been really happy to consult with them and to kind of get a peek inside their process and help them think through some of the ways that they should be doing things, especially with the NFT launch. We were able to really come in and help take their vision and make it something that worked the way that it did. And so I think on February 4th, there's going to be the reveal. So we have a couple weeks here where they're trying to market the NFTs and get them out into the world. And then we'll get to see what everything looks like. But I think the idea is to have those NFTs that you get unlock a special skin in the game, among some other things like getting you access to the MMO and some other cool utility stuff. Yeah.
And that leads into what I think is Dojira's greatest strength and why it will dovetail so well with what Hoge wants to do and what so many others want to do, which is basically that you guys are building some of the developer kit tools that empower everybody else. And your success is basically contingent upon and structured around the success of everyone else.
Well, a little bit.
Right? I mean, well, to the extent that you're trying to build an ecosystem.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the Dojira token is basically like, and it's not any one project that your success is tied to, but it's the everyone that basically enters into your orbit and connects up with the tools that you've created. Yeah. You as the entire project. And now you and I are just sort of writers and podcasters at this point.
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn Solidity, but I'm not there yet. And I don't imagine. Have you done any programming?
No, I am historically not a math guy.
Gotcha. So, that's the subject that I tutor. So I figure if math has gotten me this far, let me see if I can take this one extra step.
Yeah.
So, but it's very hard to find the time, especially when I'm doing all the things that I'm doing. And so it'll probably be a few years before I finally put my programs out, but it'll be easier to do because of the tools that you guys are putting out. And so I really hope to see some connections continue. I tagged them, and both sides were excited, but I hope to see Virtual Pangea and Dojira kind of come together. I know Wafer, you guys are on Red Wave now. I saw some sort of a tweet about that. So I have friends in Wafer. Tell me about that.
I was not the one spearheading that one, so I'm not the one to ask there. But I've been poking around Red Wave a little bit. It seems pretty cool. I mean, it's got a lot of the elements that you expect from a social media platform. You got your like, your comments, your share. But one of the things I do like is that right now there's not like an algorithm that is adjusting what content you see. So it's kind of that. Right. Just that slow roll.
It's like an innocent Facebook, right?
Yeah, exactly. Probably what Facebook was like before it turned evil.
Before it turned evil, yeah, exactly. And which kind of brings me to another thought that I had earlier today, which is that people have a tendency to be kind of optimizers, which is good. Like that's something that humans do well, optimize, but like you can take that to this maximalist kind of perspective where it's like only my project will win, everything else loses, right? And I mean, I'm channeling a little bit of like boomer Bitcoin energy there, right? But
yeah,
like that's not how this thing is all going to come together, right? It's going to be a lot more like, Facebook was not the Google killer, right? Like they do different things. There's more than one winner that's going to emerge in this space. There's actually going to be quite a lot of winners, I think.
Yeah.
And I think Chainlink will be one. I think Dojira will be one. I think Wafer will be one. And I still very much believe that Hoge will be one. And so, I think we've just got to get ourselves through this hurdle. And if I'm wrong and we get listed on a top 5 like right away, then I will be so glad to admit how terribly wrong I was. But if that doesn't happen, and we're having to work with the high gas contract, I think following Dojira's example is and Polygon is I think a great option.
Yeah.
There are more options than that, but I think Polygon is a great one.
There's plenty of options. I mean, you really got to look at like who your audience is and like where similar people are. So Polygon might not be the best match for everybody. The same way that like Chronos might not be the best match for a project's move or whatever. One thing I did want to kind of close out on is I think there's going to need to be a bit of a reckoning or like a renaissance with tokens that are from like 2021, who were founded in the meme hype phase of everything, who want to get serious but are scared to kind of lose the meme. You have to kind of lose the tokenomics or the Ponzi-nomics, as some people started referring to them now. Right. You have to lose the tokenomics and really have to focus on delivering products, right? We're getting to a point where crypto isn't just, oh, look at it's magic internet money. It's like, oh, actually, it's almost a form of like crowdfunding companies now. And so people really need to approach with that, like, okay, what's my utility? What's my function? It doesn't need to be like fantastic utility. It could be something interesting, but it can't also just be like, oh, look, another swap. Oh, look, another wallet. Like it needs to be something that advances the conversation in some way. And so that also means kind of stripping down some of the looseness that we've had in the crypto space. It can still be fun. It can still be, kind of jokey sometimes, but like a lot of people like cross weird lines with like, it's on the internet, therefore it's fair game, and like, things of that nature. Like we need to kind of move past derivatives, move past, reflection tokenomics, and start moving towards like, okay, what actually makes something sustainable? Because those things are just to keep people in, it's not to make the project thrive. And so that's, I think, why ultimately we made the move, was we need to get to a place where the project is long-term sustainable. Not that it like wasn't sustainable in V1, but you know what I mean? Like it was going to start.
You guys actually removed all the tokenomics, right?
Yep.
I mean, Dojira has
zero tax
tokenomics, right?
Yep.
It's just
zero tax.
Yeah. And that is something that I would love to see Hoge move towards. I don't know if the community has their mind wrapped around that yet, because tokenomics are what they thought was going to be our big success.
Sure.
And when you look at and I thought that back in March of 2021, and I was convinced actually for months after that still. But when you look at the facts on the ground, who are the big winners right now? It's Shiba Inu. They don't have tokenomics. It's Dogecoin. I mean, they don't have tokenomics, and they're ahead of where we are. There's so many projects that didn't do tokenomics, and they're thriving. They're getting on those big exchanges. Doge doesn't have tokenomics. Doge doesn't have a tax, right? And so all those meme coins that didn't have a tax are the ones that are having an easy time getting on the exchanges, and they're the ones that have at least plausible use cases. Now,
Sure.
Is Shiba Swap going to be the next Uniswap? Maybe. I don't know. But at least it's plausible that it could be. There's no way that it would be if it's a taxed token. Like there's
Right.
it just kills volume, right? You don't get trades. Everyone just hodls and nothing happens and the thing just cools off and so empirically I've now seen this happen. Everyone else has seen this happen. Like this is just the facts of what happened. And so our hypothesis was wrong. We thought we would be well ahead of SafeMoon and all these other things. Even with worse tokenomics, like more extreme tokenomics, they somehow beat us. And it was because they were on BSC, right?
Sure.
Because they had the at least that's what I think it was. They had the ease of use. People could easily get into SafeMoon. So getting off of Ethereum, layer one, first of all, no tokenomics. That's something to seriously consider. I know not everybody who's listening to this in Hoge is going to be sold on that, but it has worked well for a lot of tokens to not have that tax. Yeah. So if we do have a tax, maybe a temporary tax to like build our liquidity pool or something like that. If it went into liquidity, I'd be fine with that, I guess, for a limited period of time. But at some point, you've got to have a utility to show. Like you said, you've got to have a purpose for your token. Yep. And so what's the elevator speech for the Dojira token? Maybe that would be a great way to lock that into people's minds.
Yeah, Dojira is a GameFi project. We build games for the blockchain. They are play to earn, and we want Dojira to become the token itself, not the game development studio, but the token itself to become a gold standard that other game tokens can kind of have as their backbone, basically. So to build this ecosystem where strong games come to the blockchain, or not come to the blockchain, but strong games are built for the blockchain. So it's not just about getting, a reskin of like Bejeweled, right? It's about building good games that are fun, that are engaging, and have some sort of play to earn reward attached to them. It doesn't need to be like, oh my gosh, I can quit my job. It can just be that you're not only rewarded in having a fun experience, you're also rewarded for your time in a monetary fashion. That is my elevator pitch. That is not the official Dojira elevator pitch. But that is essentially what we aim to do. And we're really just passionate about building good games. And so that's what we want to do. We're a game studio and a token and a DeFi platform. Crunch it all together, you got DeFi. Or crunch it all together, you got GameFi. I was going for the mic drop, and I biffed it.
No. I'm sold, man.
Great.
Because it's clear that GameFi is one of the most promising areas of where crypto can be applied. And this, I don't think gets recognized enough that it's not going to change anybody's life in America if they're earning $10 a day by playing a video game.
Right.
But it absolutely changes lives in Vietnam and Philippines, all those places where Axie Infinity took off.
Yeah.
And Smooth Love Potion, that's what got some of these families through the pandemic. It sounds wild, it sounds crazy, but like that is the reality of what it is. So this is, I mean, we're wrapping up, so I'm not going to go deep into philosophy here, but I really would love to see a world where it is one gigantic network where we're not letting anybody starve. Like, I
Mm.
think that would be cool, you know?
Yeah. I
So
mean, crypto in a lot of ways, especially as it develops, is a place for people who were traditionally either kind of relegated from the benefits of living in a middle class society, or people who were really talented but just never found their footing. Like, this is a place where those people can kind of find a new lease on life, and especially for people in countries where the money is not as prevalent, and the pay is not great to make a solid living. Crypto offers different ways for people to be able to actually earn a wage that they can live on, and a lot of times also gives them way more money than they ever thought they could ever get in a year, 2 years, 10 years. I know it's a little bit different for us here in America because of the way that our economics work, but I think you're right. I think crypto in general does pose a level of lifeline for a lot of people in a lot of countries that were in a tight spot before, as long as they're able to get into it. I guess that's always the hurdle, the barrier of entry. But anyway, Jesse, it's been great talking to you. Where can people find you?
yeah, I'm on Twitter at HogeFather. That's pretty much the easiest way to link to all my other stuff, my YouTube, my Medium articles, all that kind of stuff. So just follow me on Twitter at HogeFather, and you'll be able to have access to everything else that I do.
Perfect. You also have a Medium, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I love writing stories for Dojira too. So hopefully we'll see more of those in the future. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, any type of collaboration, man. This space is so wide open. It is just a blue ocean of beautiful opportunity. So this is a space where we're all going to win if we hang together. We're all facing the same kind of challenges, whether we're in Hoge or we're in Dojira or Wafer or Dojalon or Shiba or whoever it is, like, the same challenges that we're going through, everyone else is too. And so, I think the best thing we can do is just kind of all hang together and see ourselves as allies
Yeah.
in this new future that we're building.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Bottom. If you would like to learn more about Dojira and Dojira Studios, please consider heading over to our websites, dojira.net or dojira.finance, where you can find out more about our project, our token, our products, and our DeFi platform. I'm your host, Elijah McDougall, and I look forward to catching you on the next one.